a big fan of movies, but I recently had the shocking revelation that there are quite a lot of movies that I haven't watched. So, I decided to make a late New Year's resolution, and I said to myself, I'm just gonna watch all the movies that I want to watch when I want to watch them. As soon as I have the free time, I'm gonna watch them. So in this month, I watched 10 movies, and I know 10 movies might not sound like a lot, but what I wanted to do was give myself some time to actually reflect on the movie before moving on to the next. Learn about it, learn about how it was made and the meanings of it, and just let it build, and then I would kind of make an opinion off of it after that. There is probably 1 or 2 movies in this list that you have seen, because they're quite popular movies, and that's why I really wanted to watch them, so I could partake in a discussion every time it was brought up. And I'm gonna go through every single one of the 10 movies that I watched this month, and I'm gonna rate them, and I'm gonna talk a bit about them, and yeah, it should be fun. So if you've seen any of these movies, join me in the discussion. This is more of a passion video, so if you want, leave it down in the comments. What did you think about these movies? I will not be spoiling the movies. I'll try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible. And if there is a spoiler, I will tell you. And there will be chapters so you can see which movies I'm going to talk about. So yeah, let's get into it. The first movie I watched was Batman Begins. Now, one of the things I was really embarrassed about was the fact that I hadn't seen any Christopher Nolan movie. You know, with the hype of Oppenheimer, I kind of just thought to myself, you know what, I have not watched a single Christopher Nolan movie. I have now. I've watched quite a few, and I'm happy to say that he's above average director. Sometimes he absolutely nails it and makes an incredible movie. Other times he makes a movie that's kind of, yeah, I'm just gonna come out and say it. Immediately, I find Batman to be an incredibly goofy character, just from this movie alone. I haven't watched any other Batman movies, but I really can't see the appeal from this movie. I haven't watched The Dark Knight. That's gonna be next month, so join me for that. That might be good. I'm not saying it's not gonna be, but Batman Begins, I was really bored, and I did not have a single reason to care about this Bruce Wayne character, because I genuinely thought he was a very goofy character. I think goofy is the only word. Basically, it's Christian Bale, an incredible actor, but putting him in this situation where he has to speak like while he has this black around his eyes and this mask just like pushing his cheeks inward, and he just sits there looking like a complete idiot, talking to someone, being like, where is he? And the other character is just supposed to not laugh. Like, he's just, he looks like a guy playing make pretend. Like, if you saw someone doing this in real life, you would laugh at them. And I don't understand why when we're watching a movie, we're like, oh my god, Bruce Wayne. It's because he's rich. Is that why? He looks cool when we see him standing on a building and there's like this silhouette of him, or when he's kind of moving in the shadows. We only really see the arm or something grab and then start beating people up. And he can make some decisions that just kind of annoy me. It's always Alfred that has to come in and fix the situation. I love Alfred. He's a great character, but it shouldn't be him that I'm rooting for. It should be Bruce Wayne. And I found the story to be quite boring. You know, there's this gothic style to it all, which I can always appreciate. I appreciate some gothic style, but with this one it just felt kind of empty. Scarecrow wasn't really that intimidating of a villain, and it was actually another character who ended up becoming a villain, who we see in the beginning. I'm gonna spoil this one because it doesn't make sense to explain it. Liam Neeson, he's the one that trains Bruce Wayne to become Batman. And I like that section. And Liam Neeson trains Bruce Wayne, and then something happens, and Batman saves Liam Neeson. And with any other movie, that would usually mean that that guy will always be the main character's sidekick or something, or will come and help in the last minute. But this time, he actually comes back, and it's like, yeah, you shouldn't have saved me, dumbass. Now I'm gonna fulfill my evil plan, and Batman has to stop him. And I love that. That is one thing I'll give the movie. I really like that. How it didn't mean anything that he saved him, because Liam Neeson doesn't owe him anything for that. He could have just let him die, but he didn't. That was his choice. And now he's just using that opportunity to keep going with what plans he had. And I really like that. So I like the end. I like when we got close to the end with the big fight with Liam Neeson. But other than that, I just wasn't asked. I really could not see the appeal with this Batman character, with this Batman story. I was very bored. It took me 3 tries to watch this movie. Gary Oldman, who I think is a phenomenal actor, doesn't really do much in this movie. It's just It's frustrating, but you know, Batman Begins isn't the movie that everyone's talking so much about. It's The Dark Knight, and I'm gonna watch that next month, so stay tuned for that, because I really want to watch that and see if they can save me from what I just witnessed in Batman Begins. And I think they can, because the Joker, I like the Joker, and I'm excited to see him in action. So yeah, Batman Begins gets a 4 out of 10. Sorry. Next movie is The Revenant. I wanted to watch some Leonardo DiCaprio. My dad asked me, hey, can we watch The Revenant? And I was like, you know what, I want to do that. Because I wanted to see the movie that gave Leonardo DiCaprio an Oscar. I've always been a big fan of Leonardo DiCaprio. I like him in every role he's in. And with The Revenant, I liked it. Wasn't anything too special. I do have my reasons for that, but I thought the shots were gorgeous. I really liked how it showed nature in such a raw way, and how it's portrayed it as this very merciless concept. Because that's kind of what nature is, but at the same time it's very beautiful, and I loved the shots, and I was very interested in the story, even though not that much happens. It's basically kind of a revenge story, and we also have Tom Hardy in the movie, who I thought was great as well. Really like the makeup, the costume design, how everyone was looking. Domhnall Gleeson, I really liked this movie as well. That's his name, right? Domhnall Gleeson, yep. Liked him. So yeah, I really like the cast. I liked a lot of things about this movie. The only thing that I didn't really like was how it got a bit dragged on after a while. Because Leonardo DiCaprio goes through some shit in this movie, and he gets attacked by a bear, and that's kind of the whole thing that starts the movie. I thought the way they made this bear was incredible. The bear looked so real. I genuinely thought were just filming Leonardo DiCaprio getting mauled by a bear, being like, oh, that's a good shot right there. Like, it was really, really well done, and I like that. But afterwards, we've seen Leonardo DiCaprio struggle once, and we're gonna see him struggle again and again and again and again. And I get it. It is a struggle to be out here, but it's kind of the same scene over and over again. The amount of times we see a shot of Leonardo DiCaprio on the ground with his eyes closed, slowly opening, being like, and then he crawls through the snow, is too much. Way too much more than it should have been. And that got a bit, okay. Like, I like the scenes. He climbs into a horse. That's pretty cool. I like that. But when that happened, I was just kind of like, do we really have to see Leonardo DiCaprio wake up from being injured, having to get up on his feet again? I get it was probably to show his devotion to this revenge arc he's going on, but God, it got a bit dragged out after a while, and I think the movie could have been cut down a little. But I liked its simple concept. I loved the shots. The cinematography was great. Costume design was great. Story was very mighty fine. Yeah, but a bit dragged out, and I'll give it a 7 out of 10 for that. Because it's not a movie that I'll remember for years to come. It's just a movie that I've watched that I thought that was a good movie, and I'll move on. Okay, here it comes. Inception. Inception looked like a movie I was really gonna like, and I was right, because I saw a bunch of actors that I wanted to see more of. I saw Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He once directed a movie where he played the main character who was in an intense sexual relationship with Scarlett Johansson, which I have nothing but respect for. Ken Watanabe was there. I wanted to see more of him, and I after this movie, I was very happy with his performance, and so I thought I was gonna move on to another movie that he was in, The Last Samurai. I could not finish that movie. That movie sucked. I got halfway through it, and I was bored out of my mind. And I get that, well, everything starts to get good in the second half. I don't care. If a movie can't capture my attention in the first half of the movie, then I'm not gonna watch the other half. I'm not gonna bother with that. If it's a good movie, it should have my attention within the first 10 minutes. I don't want this bullshit of like 2 hours of build-up for the last 1 hour to be really, really good. I'm not doing that. Fuck off. Anyway, so that movie was pretty bad, but Inception is pretty good. Tom Hardy wanted to see more of after The Revenant, and Leonardo DiCaprio wanted to see more of him. So, I watched this movie, and I was floored. I loved it. I loved every single second of the movie. I did not want it to end. It is still a pretty complex movie, but it's not really that difficult to understand. But I went into this feeling really proud of myself for understanding it. I'm gonna get humbled with the next movie, I can promise you that. But with this one, I felt proud of myself, so that also made the enjoyment that much more. I just really liked the story. I thought it was a genius concept that that I was really into. I thought that the way they utilized this concept was great, and the characters were really appealing, and I thought everyone kind of got a chance to shine. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I really liked in this movie, especially that action scene where they're sleeping in a truck that's rolling around, and then in the dream the whole room is like spinning around as well. Meanwhile, Joseph is fighting another guy, and that looked awesome. Everyone has been raving on about that scene, and I understand why, because that was so fucking cool. I loved that. The music as well. Hans Zimmer and Christopher Nolan, can't go wrong. They are a match made in heaven. You've probably heard that many times. Oh, Hans Zimmer and Christopher Nolan, magnifique! But it's really true. They're great together. They should kiss. The story was just great. I just really liked everything about this movie. It was fucking awesome. I didn't want it to end. I won't be spoiling anything. I'll just say to the people that have watched the movie that the spinning top falls over at the end, 100%. Hopefully that's not a spoiler for anyone. But if you've seen the movie, you know what I mean, and you know my thoughts about that one. It's basically just a big heist movie. Who doesn't love a heist movie? And it takes place in dreams, so basically the director can have as much fun as he wants. And I think that's a great thing to give yourself as a director. Just give yourself a concept that allows you to do anything, because the audience gonna love it as well. They're gonna love the fact that things aren't realistic, and so things can just happen. I think that's great. So yeah, I've already watched this movie twice because I thought it was so lovely, and it gets a 10 out of 10. Now, next movie is the one that really humbled me. It's Fight Club. This was one of the movies that I just simply couldn't understand. Why have I not watched this movie? But I finally got around to doing it, and my god, I was confused. I was feeling so good about myself after Inception. I was like, I can understand any movie. And Fight Club came along, and when I finished the movie, I was like, what? Unfortunately, I did kind of know about the twist. I'm not gonna say what it is, but I had it kind of spoiled for me, not directly, but people were saying stuff about the movie that led me to figure it out very quickly. So I wasn't as whoa when it actually happened in the movie, which I wish I was, because then I could, experience that for myself, because I think that's a big part of why people like this movie so much. But another part of why people like the movie so much is the fighting. And I will just say, I'm gonna be honest, I don't exactly know what the movie is trying to say, but I know it's so much more than just the fighting aspect of it. And that's why it can be kind of frustrating when people just say they love the movie because it has a lot of fighting, or if they say they hate the movie because it has a lot of fighting. That's just kind of like, that's not the point of the movie. I can say that much for sure. It's definitely what sets everything in motion. It's what, connects everything. But the main part of the movie is Project Mayhem, right? It's terrorism. And yet people are kind of talking about fighting in it. It's just, that's not really the main thing about the movie. That's not what the movie ends with someone getting punched. It's terrorism. I'm not gonna say if the terrorism succeeds or not, but it's terrorism that the movie is leading up towards. But I finished the movie, and I really liked it. I thought it was great, but I just couldn't figure out what was the movie trying to tell me exactly. And I thought that was on purpose. It doesn't really try to forcefully tell you what it was trying to say. You kind of had to figure that out yourself, and I like that. That's totally fine. But my god, is it confusing, because people have different theories, it seems. It's hard for me to find like a definitive answer as to what Fight Club talked about. It's definitely about breaking free. It's definitely about masculinity. It's also about capitalism, I've heard. That one I can't really figure out why. Probably is. They're probably right, but I cannot figure out exactly why it's about capitalism. That might be because I am stupid. That can totally be the case. But I'll just come out and say I can't really figure out exactly why. But I like that it has so much room for discussion. I like the fact that it can be up to interpretation, and that makes for a good viewing experience where you see the things and you kind of decide for yourself what is it supposed to mean. Brad Pitt was of course great in this movie, but the actor that I loved the most was Edward Norton. I think he fucking nails this role, and he deserves so much more recognition than he gets. It's usually Brad Pitt we talk about, and that's fine, but Edward Norton just nails this debt oh yeah, he's dead. Like he might be alive, but in his mind he's just completely dead, and he's looking for something that he can just do. He's looking to break out, and that's what we see in this movie. I am Jack's complete lack of surprise. The way he delivers those lines is so well done, because he's supposed to be fucking boring to listen to, and he nails that. But even though he's so boring to listen to, you're still so compelled by it. You love him. You really like this character. There are some scenes in this movie that's really interesting. You wouldn't see that in a lot of movies. It's very far-fetched, but this movie also deals with a lot of concepts that are very far-fetched, and that's just great. I loved it. Helena Bonham Carter is great as well. Love the cast. I love the humor when it had that. I love the drama when it had that. Really, really good. It gets an 8 out of 10. It didn't knock me off my feet completely, but I thought it was a great movie. You have to go into this movie expecting so much more than just fighting, because that's what this movie is, and it's kind of a disservice to the movie saying it's just fighting, because it's not. Next up, a bit more of a lighthearted movie, Catch Me If You Can. Yeah, 5 out of 10. It was fine. It was good entertainment. And, you know, I like Tom Hanks, I like Leonardo DiCaprio, and when we see Leonardo DiCaprio utilize his skills as this escapist, that's really fun to watch, but it's not the whole movie. You usually see the clips of that part of the movie, and that's what makes you like the movie. But when you watch the full movie when you watch the full movie in its entirety, you realize there are a lot of points where you're just kind of like, okay, it doesn't do much for me. I still like the sequences. I don't have anything against the movie, but I can't go out and say, oh, it's such a great movie, because it's just not. It's fine entertainment that you can watch if you want something lighthearted and fun, but not much more than that. Along with Fight Club, there was one movie that I was really embarrassed I hadn't watched, and that was No Country for Old Men. And I watched it, and I thought it was great. I really, really, really thought it was great. Javier Bardem is absolutely extraordinary as Chigurh, I think his name was. That haircut is atrocious, but I think that's why it's so good, because it's a horrible haircut, but at the same time it's taken care of very perfectly, which describes Chigurh's character very well as this person who likes everything to be perfect. He kills, but he doesn't want blood to be on his shoes. One of those juxtapositions, I think you call it, that I really liked about this movie. It makes Chigurh out to be so much more than just a psychopath, even though he is just a psychopath. I thought this movie was so bold in its choices. It's not a typical movie. There is almost no music. Very, very scarce dialogue in this movie. It's mostly just watching. You're just watching someone go around looking at stuff, kind of being like, okay. And you just kind of have to think for yourself what they're thinking about what they're seeing. And I really like that. I thought that was the movie for me. When there was dialogue, the dialogue was incredible, and there was a lot of, you know, importance to the dialogue, so you really had to listen. And when you were just seeing something without any dialogue, you got to think for yourself. You didn't have a person finding a dead body and being like, oh my god, that's a dead body. I wonder how he died. Stuff like that. You don't need that. You really don't. You can think for yourself with these things. One of the scenes that I really liked was how we have Josh Brolin find this suitcase full of money, and I was completely expecting him to be like, whoa, millions of dollars or something like that, where he comments on the fact that he gets this money and be like, or at least something like, he's just found a lot of money. The only thing he says is, And I thought that was great. That completely shocked me. I was like, wait, you're not gonna say anything else? When I thought about it, I was like, yeah, that's great. Why would he? Why would he begin jumping and dancing? He's alone out in a desert and just found millions of dollars. Obviously, he feels like this might not come for free. So he's just kind of being like, yeah, this is pretty cool. I'm just gonna take that and just leave. And that's my interpretation of it. And I thought this single tells so much. So things like that I loved. Really, really like Javier Bardem's portrayal. He nails it, and I want to see him be in even more movies. I'm gonna be watching Dune next month, and I'm gonna see him there, so excited for that. But Anton Chigurh has really cemented himself just from this movie to be one of the all-time greats in terms of villains, in movies, because he's so goddamn intimidating. And you know, the scene in the store with that man, tension just is so goddamn great. And that's one of the only times where you actually hear some music, but this time it feels so goddamn earned, because it builds up the tension even more, because all of a sudden you're hearing some music which you haven't heard the entire movie, so you really realize that there are some things about to happen. Everything just builds up, and it's But one of my favorite things about this movie is what happens to one of the main characters. If you've seen the movie, you know what? I thought that was so incredibly bold. When I watched it, I was like, no, you can't do that. But then they did. And I was just like, all right, fair enough. Absolute cinema. What the fuck? No Country for Old Men, 9 out of 10. Genuinely. I actually gave it an 8 out of 10, but talking about it, I realized how much I actually like this movie. So 9 out of 10. Close to 10. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Next movie. 12 Years a Slave. A bit more of a serious movie, which I was very interested in watching. I stumbled upon them winning Best Picture, and I was like, you know what, I really gotta watch that. Because my dad always said that I should go and watch 12 Years a Slave, because it's an incredibly important movie, even though it's not a very fun watch. But it's incredibly important to understand what happened with slaves back in the day. Yeah, I agree. It's not a fun watch. You're not being there like, yeah, when you're watching it. It's not Catch Me If You Can. It's a complete opposite. But man, was it good. I really thought it was an incredibly important piece that didn't shy away from anything. Showed it for how it was, because it was also based off a real story about how this character, Solomon as he's called, he is basically living normal life as a free man. But then he just randomly one day just gets struck, captured, and now he's a slave the next 12 years and is not able to see his family. 12 years. That's just how it went at that time. And I really thought, damn, that's fucked up. we see how, you know, slaves were treated. We see what they had to do. We also see how they got through it. You know, there's a scene that my favorite scene in the movie is when they start singing. They start singing "Go John Go" or something like that, and reminded me a lot of Aretha Franklin's "How I Got Over," which I just recently analyzed in a music class here recently, and so it gave me a bit of PTSD, because my god, that was difficult to analyze. But I still thought it was a great scene, because it allowed these slaves to really to just let loose and find hope in something, whether that be God or anything other that was divine. Didn't really matter, because it just showed that there was still some hope to be had, and that was a very powerful scene for me, and I loved it. There is another scene that is also incredible, and it's a scene where nothing happens. Basically, Solomon is kind of he retaliates in a moment of crisis. He retaliates against this absolute shit sack of a white man. And he's punished for it. He's about to get hung or hanged, and but he gets saved last minute. But he doesn't cut him down, so he's just left there to. I can't show the scene for obvious reasons, but he's just left there with a rope around his neck and two feet just barely touching the ground, just so he could get the slightest bit of air, so he could actually breathe. And we just have this shot that's like 1 minute long, but it felt like 10 minutes because it was so grueling, of just him holding on with these two little ballerina feet almost, making sure that he's touching the ground and he can breathe just a tiny bit. But you hear these sounds and it's just pain. It just screams pain, while there you see the other slaves in the background having to kind of look away, acting like nothing's happening, because they don't want to get punished either, which, fair enough. And it's just incredibly painful to watch, but I thought it was a genius way of showing it, because when they got whipped, that's obviously horrible, but this was on another level, because it was just incredibly uncomfortable to watch, and it just went on for so long, and we only get to see 1 minute of him hanging there, but in the movie he actually hangs there for like 8 hours or something, until it gets dark and someone cuts him down. The person who cuts him down is a character played by Benedict Cumberbatch, who is one of the nicer white folks, But the movie also makes the point that yes, he might be nicer than the others, and he might treat Solomon with a slight bit of respect, but he's still a slave owner. And that kind of adds moral ambiguity to the whole thing of like, is he a good man or is he still a bad man? Because at this time it was the culture to have slaves. It was you were kind of chastised if you didn't have slaves as a rich white man. So he's following these rules, but at the same time, if he shows this amount of respect for the black people, why not just let them be free instead of having them work for you? And so that adds, a lot of discussion. I wouldn't say he's a good person. Obviously, he's better than a lot of other characters, especially Michael Fassbender, who we meet in just a bit. But at the same time, you can still kind of see that he does feel some sort of remorse, which is at least something. But it's not what redeems him as a character. And I liked how they portrayed different type of white people in this movie, instead of all having them be like really. Instead of all having them basically be very one-dimensional in terms of their villainy. But Michael Fassbender is absolutely incredible. He really nails it as this vile character. Lupita Nyong'o absolutely deserved that Oscar. She was amazing as well. Oh, that scene where she was getting whipped was fucked up, and I love the scenes for that, because it doesn't shy away from it, and I think that's incredibly important. Yeah, two characters that were played exceptionally well. The cast was so good. One we don't talk about that much is Solomon. He doesn't talk that much in the movie, but the expression that he shows are insanely well done. Now finally, one thing that I thought was a bit was Brad Pitt comes along. I knew he was in the movie, but he appeared very, very late. And he comes along and he basically frees Solomon, which isn't really a spoiler, I feel, because this happened in real life and it's a story of how he was a slave for 12 years. So, obviously he has to stop being a slave. The way he does that is by Brad Pitt coming along and being like, what's up, dude? I like you, black person. Oh, that sucks that you were made as a slave. All right, I'll free you now. And just like that, it happens. Which I felt was a bit oof, because Brad Pitt comes along and saves the day for this Solomon character, which is he's the producer. So obviously, if I was the producer, I would probably give myself the role that made me a bit more likable than fucking Michael Fassbender. But at the same time, he's such an important character for Solomon's story, and he doesn't get any development. He just comes in, says some very heroic things, and he's the hero. And because Solomon had just been betrayed before by another white person, why would he trust Brad Pitt so quickly? I get it, he doesn't have anything left to lose, that's usually the answer, but at the same time, it would still be nice to know why exactly he was so quick to say, Brad Pitt, he's the one. And make him do this thing for him that would allow him to be free. Because if Brad Pitt were to betray him, he would have definitely been killed. So that felt a bit rushed, but I loved the ending, had me very emotional, and yeah, very good movie. It gets an good 8 out of 10. Please go watch it. Interstellar! I watched Interstellar, and I was very excited because Inception, I really liked Inception. It was time for Interstellar. Also, music made by Hans Zimmer, very iconic music, very iconic movie. People were loving the movie, and I went into it thinking I was also gonna love it. No. It didn't do it for me. I was just bored throughout most of it. I really didn't think I was just kind of like, okay. Like, I thought the idea was nice. Having to sacrifice your time with your kids to save the world. That was mighty fine to see. The shots in the movie are incredible. They look amazing. The sound design I really liked. Sometimes explosions would happen out in space, but it would just cut the sound because there's no sound in space. So you would just see these giant explosions, but you don't hear a single sound. And that was, I really like those parts, but that doesn't make the movie great. It starts off a bit slow, then he goes to space very quickly, having to save the world. They see some cool things that I'm like, wow, that looks really cool. But all in all, I'm still kind of waiting for cool things to happen. Then they come to this water place, which was nice. I mean, it was a good, intense moment, but I wasn't floored. It was intense, and I like that ticking sound that symbolized something like 1 year on Earth or 1 hour on Earth or something. That made it a lot more intense and also kind of uncomfortable in a way, because things were moving so quickly. And then Matthew McConaughey comes in, he finds out that like 27 years has passed by this guy who's apparently, unless I've misunderstood something, he's been in this space shuttle out in space for 27 years. The only thing to accompany him is some robot. And you telling me he hasn't gone fucking insane? Bullshit. He hasn't done anything to escape or anything. Most of the people watching right now hasn't even lived for 27 years. Imagine all the years of your life, plus some, just sitting around in a rocket ship out in space, where you have no one but a robot. I'm sorry, that's just not possible for someone to do. He just comes out, it's been 27 years, fuck off. No, you have not survived that. Like, completely sane, as if only like 24 hours has passed. This is, what the fuck? Unless I misunderstood something, do tell me if I did, but my god, that was so dumb. Then he goes in, watches these videos from his kids. I'm not gonna criticize that, because obviously an incredible, powerful moment. Very well acted by Matthew McConaughey. Only issue is that I feel like he gives so much more of a fuck about Murph and his other son, Tom. He doesn't give a shit about. He's just kind of like, hi Tom. Oh, you got a kid. Damn, that sucks. I wish I could be there. Oh, Murph. No, Murph, missed Murph. She's all grown up now. And it's just, all right, fuck Tom. Tom was treated really badly in this movie. He also came in when he had to leave for space, went into Murph's room and was like, I'm gonna come back, Murphy. I promise you, and I love you. You know that. Hi Tom, take care of everyone. Alright, bye. Like, it's just, what the fuck? Other things happen. They meet Matt Damon, which I didn't know he was in this movie. I see him and I'm like, I've gotten so used to seeing him in Good Will Hunting. All of a sudden he's up in space and I'm like, why the fuck are you here? And the movie just makes it worse because Matt Damon plays a really badly developed character and he's doing these things and they're like, don't do that because you're gonna die. And he's like, man, fuck you. Explosion happened. Again, no sound, so hey, that was cool. And then they see the rocket ship has just exploded. So, you would think that, oh, there's nothing we can do. We're gonna be stuck out here in space. We can't go back. But then Matthew McConaughey, the main character, gets an idea and is like, I'm gonna do this. So just stay with me. The AIs, the robots, say that's not possible. And when they say that's not possible, it actually is possible. And it was just such a cliche fucking moment where it's like, that's not possible, you can't do that. But, oh, because he's the main character, he actually managed to do that. Like, if a robot is telling you it's not possible, it's not fucking possible. I'm so cliche, I'm sorry, it was so dumb. Then there's the bookshelf scene, a very emotional moment. Didn't understand it quite, like, why is this happening, how does this work? But honestly, you would expect me to be the one to criticize that for that, but I actually kind of had no problem with it. I thought it was a nice scene, so I could forgive it. We had the classic no, which and I thought it was emotional. I liked it. I had given up on trying to understand things at this point. So yeah, I cannot understand why people like this movie so much. I cannot. I thought it was mostly kind of boring, had some really dumb moments. It had some good moments as well, absolutely, and some incredible shots. It looks great. I have never been a big fan of like space. I haven't cared about that too much. I have enough issues here on Earth to deal with. I don't need to know what the fuck is going on outside of it. But, I still went in accepting it for that, so that's not what soured my opinion of this movie. It's instead all the things that happened that I just couldn't really understand. It was just kind of like, okay. So yeah, it gets a 5 out of 10. Don't get too mad at me. Here's a revisit, The Wolf of Wall Street. I watched that again, don't know why. I was doing this, I was having to write this essay for something, and I just decided I'm gonna put on Wolf of Wall Street. I ended up not writing a lot of the essay, because I was mostly distracted by Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know why I put on Wolf of Wall Street, why the fuck would I do that? But I still ended up watching it for that reason, because when I first watched it, I was like, it was fine. It's not much more than that. And when I watched it again, I was now thinking, it was fine. But it's not much more than that. Again, it's Leonardo DiCaprio. His acting is incredible. He's so good as Jordan Belfort. Margot Robbie, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. She's hot as fuck in this movie. Jonah Hill, really good actor as well. So, some good acting and some fun story, but gets dragged out way too much. And that's mostly what drags this movie down for me. Martin Scorsese has a problem with his movie where he has to drag them out to like 3 hours or 3.5 hours when honestly the movie could just be 2 hours long. This movie was 3 hours long, and I would dare say that you could have actually made this movie 2 hours long and still kind of had the same story. Obviously not as much character development, but it does not need to be 3 hours. It really doesn't. I've never been a massive Martin Scorsese fan. I've watched Goodfellas. I'm sorry, didn't do much for me. Joe Pesci fucking pissed me off so much. I thought he was such an annoying character, constantly swearing, which I know is pretty ironic for me to say, but God, he just annoyed me so much. I wasn't laughing at him. I wasn't there like, oh wow, he's so good, and apparently won an Oscar for it. I just thought it genuinely ruined the movie for me. And I thought the movie doesn't say much. It was just a gangster movie, which I get a lot of people like. You're like, oh, gangster, very cool, but it didn't say anything to me. I didn't feel anything about it. It was just a movie that exists that explains how it was to be a gangster that I just couldn't give a shit about. I'm sorry. It's not a bad movie, but it's just so much less than what people make it out to be, I feel. Fucking Joe Pesci being like, hey, you fucking shit, I'm gonna shoot you, you're not, fuck you. I hate the roles Joe Pesci gets. He's so fucking annoying. And it's the same role every time. I've seen Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci in the same fucking movie again and again. You cannot convince me Goodfellas, The Irishman, and Casino are 3 movies that you can consider separate. Yeah, they might be a bit of a different story, but it's still the same concept. I cannot understand why people were watching The Irishman, which 3.5 hours, fuck you, watching that movie and being like, oh, Martin Scorsese knocks it out of the park again. No, it's unoriginal as fuck. He's shown that he can make movies like Wolf of Wall Street. Do more of that instead of being like, oh, what should I make? Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, get in here. We're gonna make another mafia movie. Fuck off. But yeah, The Wolf of Wall Street was good. I liked it. Just was way too long. That's honestly my whole thing. This whole thing of living in the luxury was fine to watch, but it got a bit old, and I kind of wanted things to develop. Wanted some things to actually happen, and they kind of didn't. But you know, a good laugh. So it was fine. 7 out of 10. And finally, I'm gonna wrap this up very quickly. I watched Dunkirk. Dunkirk was fine. I thought that I liked it for what it was trying to say. And it gets a 6 out of 10 because it's a war movie. And for me, I feel like you can show a person 3 war movies and they've kind of understood the concept, and every single other war movie is mostly just the same. And Dunkirk unfortunately falls into that trap. But I still appreciated for what it was trying to say. It was more so looking at the people, or it was a movie that it kind of felt like a tribute to the ordinary people who went out of their way and risked their lives to save people who were in trouble. And I really appreciate the movie for paying tribute to that, and so I can't hate on it for that. But it just doesn't mean that it was that interesting to watch. The flying scenes looked amazing. Good cinematography there, but it was just watching these people get from one place to the next, and every single place just ends up not really working out for them. Either it explodes, or it gets bombed, or they just have to escape for other reasons. It just got very samey, and yeah, not much more to say than that. So it gets a 6 out of 10. Still thought it was a mighty fine movie. I'm glad it was made. I appreciate it for what it was trying to say. But I'm not gonna watch it again. So, good movie, fine. 6 out of 10. Anyway, that's it. Damn, that probably went on for way longer than it should have, but I'm very passionate about these movies. I could have said so much more about every single movie. If you watch to the end, damn, thank you so much. That's I'm very grateful for the fact that you did that. If you skip to the chapters, that's also totally fine. Some movies interest people more than others, and I think that's great. Because it allows for different tastes, and it allows for discussion, which is one of the reasons why I watch movies, because I love discussing it with people. Fortunately, I don't know many people who like movies as much as I do. It's kind of difficult to find people who you can discuss the movies with, aside from my dad. So if anyone's out there who likes movies as much as I do, and who've seen some of these movies that I've seen, do leave a comment. Give your thoughts about the movie. Maybe you can try to convince me why it's better or why it's worse, and we can have a discussion over that, and that should be really fun. So I hope you will do that if you watch so much of this. And if you want to watch the movies that I'm going to be watching in the next month, I can say that I will most likely be watching Dune, Dark Knight, Lord of the Rings. Don't know if I'll watch all 3, but definitely the first one. Spirited Away, and 2 movies that I feel like I need to watch because Oscars is coming up and I haven't watched a lot of the movies this year. But I'm going to be watching Wicked. I'm going to be watching Emilia Perez because it's gotten a lot of nominations and I've heard it's shit. So I really want to check it out to make my own opinions. So when it wins a bunch of awards, I can actually be mad and have a justifiable reason to be mad because I've actually watched the movie and I can say that it's shit. But who knows, maybe it's actually amazing. You know, some people like it, so I'm excited to watch that. Thanks for watching this movie. See you next time. Bye-bye. Like and subscribe, please.